what can an agent do if he wants to attract more students and wants to send more students?
Well, I think, first of all, to enter it with an open mind that this is not going to be some impossible thing, because as most people know, there is a social and international stigma associated with that word disability. So rather than entering into a relationship with a student and thinking that they can't do, the agent should be looking at a strength-based model and taking a look at what do you want to do, what can you do, as similar as they would anyone else that's coming in that's looking for a language or a summer program or a boarding school situation. A difference would be doing little practical, simple things like having them fill out an application in longhand and then an essay about why they want to do this on a keyboard. Because quite often you will see when someone writes longhand the misspellings, writing that's nearly illegible, and they're not even doctors. So these are kind of like soft signs that an agent can pick up, and while they may not have the expertise to understand that, or why isn't the person even looking at me, they have their head down. This is very typical of a person that has Asperger's, is they won't look you in the face. So even though you are talking to them, it looks like they're not processing, or they're aloof and they have an attitude. So becoming familiar with just general characteristics, I think, would be very helpful. Something doesn't fit, this person tests well, but they're not giving me anything to work with in the interview. What's going on? And more, we're seeing internationally a recognition that there is this group of individuals that are out there, and policy is becoming turned into practice as universities are expected to implement the provisions of the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, the Post-Millennium Development Goals, Europe 2020, OECD. I mean, the list goes on and on. The talk is all out there. Agents can familiarize themselves just from policy papers that are available through those agencies alone to see what the size of the marketplace is and the dilemma and just some general characteristics. Next, I would recommend that they try to find some type of collaborating partner that's based in the United States, whether it's a program that is similar to what we have, or any of the hundreds of other programs that are out there. Many colleges have their own centralized program that could be anywhere from just offering accommodations all the way to fully integrated programs. So it's kind of a situation for an agent, just like they do on the regular placement. You're not just going to send them to one university. You're going to send them to one that emphasizes in a certain major, or a technical school that has a certain reputation, a speciality that they have, and they're known for that. There are programs and universities that have this same sub-niche market that we're speaking of, that an agent could reach out and make a collegial effort to find out in a passive way, well, what are we talking about here? After that, I would recommend that agents spend a lot of time on prepping a prospective candidate for the immigration interview with the visa officer, because they're going to really dial in on what's the school, why are you going, what this doesn't fit, why are you going to this kind of school, what do you have? The student may be asked to talk about and to disclose their condition. And whether it's internationally or in the United States, this is a major problem area for most young people of this age, the disclosure piece.
That reminds me how important eye contact is during the visa interview.
It's critical, because when you think about how much time is spent, maybe 5 minutes in the actual interview, that officer is making a decision, thumbs up or down, whether that student is going to get a visa and be allowed to enter to study. So as I described just a moment ago about how some of the difficulties of either not being able to maintain eye contact or not being able to answer direct questions, this can be a crucial aspect for them. One strategy I would suggest for that would be to have either the agent or the school that is being considered for placement to write a letter to the embassy office describing not so much the disability aspect, but what they should expect, that here's how this student is going to present to you. That way they will not judge them only on the basis of, you didn't look at me when I was talking to you, so you fit a profile and we're not sending you over.
So what kind of schools are most attractive for students with learning disabilities?
Well, if we also include learning disability and ADHD and Asperger's syndrome, you're really talking about different types of people and different types of needs. It might be most helpful to look at a continuum from minimal service provision to more of a comprehensive program. So depending on what works best for that individual and what the family and student wants, they may decide to go to a university program that just has an Office of Disability Student Services there that will put the accommodations together, provide note-taking or extended time on tests or that type of thing, all the way up to comprehensive programs that not only do that first piece, but also have an apartment to live in and a social network, particularly important for people with Asperger's syndrome because they're the ones that tend to have the most difficulty interacting in just typical social situations. Individuals with ADHD tend to be able to associate with anyone because their motor is always running and they're social and it's pulling them back and getting them to focus that may be the difficulty. So depending on what type of field that a person is going into, obviously an IT side has a different type of skill set and different types of academic needs that may be needed to be focused on as opposed to a liberal arts degree where it's more soft and touchy-feely and more nebulous, may need something to where there is some kind of counseling support or some type of effort on having a social community or teaching basic life skills the person's never lived on their own before. So the agent and the family would really need to kind of sort that out. And both parties will need to assess risk. How much are you ready for? Most people, when their kids aren't disabled, they just set them free and they don't worry about them anymore. But there seems to be this extra hand-holding thing. And I think the family has to assess how much are you willing to let go and let them take the same types of natural risks that you would your other sons and daughters that don't have these conditions, treating them the same way.
What role do community colleges play in that spectrum?
I think the community college system may or may not be a highly used resource for agents currently, and particularly for the type of students that we've had 32 years experience in working with, we find it a very, very useful transition point to be able to see, are you ready and can you deliver the goods at a college level course or program? Community colleges tend to be smaller, so there is more support that's on campus. And in the United States, they've made it their business to work with underrepresented and underserved classes of people. So whether your English language is not that great, or you're from a conflict zone, or you're a person with a disability, this is a custom-made environment for a person to be able to start to clip off general education requirements and elective requirements to where after an individual obtains 30 transferable credits, or approximately 10 classes, at a grade point average of 2.5 or higher, I can't remember what the European equivalent is, but it's a C average, they're able to matriculate to a university without having to take further testing or do anything else because they've proven their ability to handle college-level work. So it's an invaluable opportunity, not only for matriculation purposes, but the community college system also offers, at least in the Phoenix area, over 500 non-degreed certification programs. So an individual can come in and take 16 units and get an occupational certification that would then enable them to be able to obtain employment or say, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use this to continue on with my education. So it can be short-term or it can be a longer-term option. 1 class, 5 classes, 4 classes. Students that have diagnosed disabilities have a different full-time requirement course load than students that do not. Sometimes it can be as few as 2 classes and be considered a full-time student. So if there's any financial aid coming from the home country that is tied to full-time, a community college is an ideal place for that risk-taking piece, to see how it works, build up your skills, and then matriculate to a 4-year college or university.
Let's talk a little bit about employability. When the student finishes college or university or leaves the college, what's happening then? Can you share some information?
I can. The best programs that are similar to what I've been outlining for you have kind of a concurrent program, a dual enrollment between a soft skills package to where they're teaching employability skills. One great product is offered through ACT that does the college testing. It's called Career Ready, and Career Ready offers stackable certifications that are credentialed by state governors that sign these occupational certificates that are not college, but they are skill-based. They're not literacy-based, they're functional skill-based. And the more that a student can tie what they are learning, the knowledge, to the application, the skill, the learning to know with the learning to do, it makes them more employable. And programs that are more progressive are going to offer probably an internship at the beginning to see, are you reliable, do you show up, getting feedback from an employer, and then doing direct job placement to be able to provide 3 to 6 months worth of compensated employment that then enables that student, whether they have a disability or not, to return to their home country as a much more marketable student. Because in addition to the education, they've got an employer reference and they've had paid work experience. So they will not have to queue up with everyone else that's in the pecking order and they're dependent on the GPA. They've got the GPA and the practical work experience with a reference from a corporation.
Sounds like a very impressive program. Thank you for sharing that information with our audience, with me, and thank you for coming, Rob.
Fleur, thank you so much for taking the time and for your audience to have the interest in this vital, important topic. I appreciate it.
Thank you.